when the car pulled up alongside me and the driver rolled down the window and asked, "Do you need a ride?" I knew the right answer. Now, I was 25 at the time, but I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. And that means I saw Diary of a Teenage Hitchhiker and all those ABC after-school specials, all that stuff. There was some Patch the Pony in there, too. And in case it wasn't obvious enough, we were dressed like an ABC after-school special. I was wearing a rugby shirt and jeans and Docksiders. I had a duffel bag with my clothes in it. He had a mustache and was driving a Trans Am. It does not get any more obvious than this. But my brain was not working exactly right. You see, I hadn't slept in at least 4 to 8 hours, and I hadn't had very much to eat during that period of time either. And the reasons for that are long and complicated, but the important detail you would need to know is that a woman that I probably loved got engaged to not me. And I kind of flipped out because it wasn't like the end of something. It felt like the end of everything. And I just didn't know what to do. So eventually I left town. I was going to go visit a friend in the Bay Area. I boarded a plane for Oakland, and she lived in Los Altos. Wasn't exactly expecting me, but I figure I can get to Los Altos. I didn't know where Los Altos was. And here's a fun fact, I still don't. But I figure I can do this. So through some public transit machinations, I find myself on a bus in San Mateo County. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm not going to make it to Los Altos. So I pull the cord in San Mateo for the only reason that San Mateo means St. Matthew. My name's Matthew. This is a good omen, right? After getting some advice from a police officer about where there was a cheap-ish place to stay, I began walking up the road. And I walked for what felt like forever, and when I got to an intersection, I realized I had walked 2 blocks. And it was then that car pulled up and said, "Do you need a ride?" So instead of giving the answer from the ABC After School special, I just took a deep breath and I said, yeah, I need a ride. And I got in his car. I said, "Hello, I'm Matthew. I need to get to 3rd Street." And the small talk eventually dissolved into silence, and we listened to the radio as we drove. And then, after a little while, there's a traffic light in the distance. I see it's 3rd Street. I say, "Hey, that's my stop right there." He does not acknowledge that, and we continue driving. Yes. But I figure maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe I was speaking softly. So a couple of minutes later, I said, "I needed to get off at 3rd Street. That's a few miles back now." And this time he acknowledged me, and he simply said, "Yeah." That's when I realized that I may be in a lot of trouble. I looked at the menu of options for the rest of that night, and there were some very, very bad things potentially on offer. And they tell you, if you're in a potential life and death situation, that your whole life flashes before your eyes, and I'm here to tell you that's true. As I sat in the car and contemplated what might become of me, the events of my life did flash before my eyes. And what struck me was there wasn't all that much to flash. I hadn't done all that much. I was 25. And previous to then, I had been rather cavalier with life and death things, as a lot of people in their 20s are. But in that moment, I was overwhelmed with the idea that there were things I wanted to do. I had no idea what those things were, but I knew there was something I wanted to do. I wanted more of whatever I had. But there was a really good chance that I had forfeited my right to do any of that because I made a very, very stupid decision. Now, what they say you're supposed to do in the safety films you'll see in school is to lull your potential abductor into complacency, and then the first chance you get out. So in this case, probably wait for a red light. When you're in a red light, just run out of the car, go the opposite direction, leave the luggage. It's a duffel bag full of underwear. Who cares? But I just did not have the patience for that. I had to know how this was going to end. So instead of doing that, I sat up and spoke in what my sisters called my radio voice. And I said, "Sir, I am sorry if you have misunderstood me, but I needed to get off at 3rd Street, and that is several miles back. I need to get out of this car." And he did not acknowledge me. But a few seconds later, he turned that steering wheel on a hard left and made a U-turn that would have made Starsky and Hutch proud. We drove back to 3rd Street, and he let me out of the car without saying a word. And I got out of the car and I said, "Thank you," because courtesy counts, even if maybe he was abducting you. It's true, try it sometime. And I walked down 3rd Street, pretty rattled and not knowing what had just happened, but knowing for sure 2 things. 1, maybe 3. 1, well, don't get in a car. 2, there were things I needed to do, and that I needed to figure out those things. And before I figured out any of those things, I needed to find a couch in the lobby of a Holiday Inn Express to take a nap on. So that's what I did. Thank you.
Keep going for Matthew.